Chapter 10, Constructions. Today we're going to look at Section 10.5, Special Segments. Your class opener. Draw a large triangle, construct an inscribed circle. Objectives for today. After studying this section, you'll be able to perform 2 additional basic constructions and use the basic constructions in original construction exercises. Construction number 12. Given a segment, divide the segment into a given number of congruent parts. And our first problem, divide a segment roughly 7 centimeters long into 3 congruent segments. So I'm going to give myself a segment to start with, and now I want to divide that segment into 3 parts. So to do that, I'm going to draw another segment that starts at the same spot, and I can draw it pretty much however I would want. I'm going to draw it about like this, and now I'm going to draw 3 congruent sized pieces along this segment. It doesn't really matter how big they are, just don't do them too small or too big. I roughly think I do them about the size of what the 3 congruent pieces might be on my finished segment. So here's 1 piece, 2 pieces, and 3 pieces. Now what I want to do is I want to connect the end of this 3rd piece to the end of the segment that I eventually want to cut into 3 equal sized pieces. At this point, I know that parallel lines, if they cut off equal pieces on one transversal, they cut off equal sized pieces on any transversal. So my big idea is if I copy this angle in these other locations, I'll pretty much end up with parallel lines that if I have congruent pieces that I drew on the blue segment, I should end up with congruent pieces on the black segment. So my big idea is copy corresponding angles. So now let's go through and actually copy the corresponding angles. So to get the corresponding angles, I need to copy. So for copying, I put the point of my vertex, or point of my compass at the vertex. I'm going to open up my compass and swing an arc. Now I want to copy this angle in 2 other places. So I want to copy the angle here, and I also want to copy the angle up here. Now, I know the next step in copying an angle is to measure how big the opening of that arc was. So as close as I can get it. Looks like it'll be about like this. And now that I've copied the angles, I just need to draw them in. And now I've cut my original segment into 3 congruent pieces. 2, divide a segment roughly 18 centimeters long into 5 congruent pieces. So it's the same process. So I'm going to have a longer piece, and I want to divide it into 5 segments this time. So I still straight down, and with my compass I'm going to mark off 5 congruent distances. So it'll be the first, second, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And then if you remember, the next step was to connect the end to the end of the segment I want to cut into 5 pieces. And now I really just want to copy this angle 4 other times. So if I remember again, copying an angle, I put my compass at the vertex, and I swing an arc in each of the locations. So here's the angle I want to copy, and I want to copy it in these other locations. I just need to measure how big is the opening of the angle I'm trying to copy. Looks like about that size, so I copy that over. And once I have all of my arc lengths measured off, I can just draw in all the new angles. And that should give me 5 congruent pieces. Okay, construction 13. Given 3 segments, construct a 4th segment so that the 4 segments are in proportion. Use the 3 segments shown to construct a 4th segment of length x such that in the proportion a over b equals c over x. To start this one off, the first thing I do is I just create an angle. Doesn't matter how big. And on one of the sides, I'm going to put a and b. And on the other side, I'm going to figure out c and eventually figure out x. Okay. So let's start to copy a and b. So if I copy a, so here's how big a is. So I come over and transfer a. Now I'm going to measure out how big b is. So I have a and b on the bottom. Now to do c and x. So if I have a and b on one side, I'm going to have c and x on the other side, but I don't know how long x is. So to do this, I'm going to connect the end of A to the end of C. Now I just want to copy one of 2 angles. I either want to copy angle 1 or angle 2, and it doesn't matter which one. And if I copy angle 1, I'm going to transfer it over here, and if I copy angle 2, I'm going to transfer it here and create the same angle going up and eventually hitting the top. So let's look and see how this works. So I'm going to copy the angle over to the right. So if I want to copy this angle right here, the first thing I do is I swing an arc that hits each side of the angle. I transfer that arc over here. And then I need to measure how big is the opening of this arc. Here. And now I can draw in the same angle. And now I figured out how big x is, because x is now just the piece right there. Your closure. My best experience with math was when